Yes, we are actually going to speak to the chair of the Republican Overseas UK, Greg Swenson. Good morning.
Good morning, Dawn.
Good morning, Greg. Thank you very much for joining us today. We're brilliant, aren't we?
We're good. We're
very
good.
Interesting time. Yes. So, what do you make of Biden's visit? How is it being received in America? What are they pleased that he's here, or do they not really care?
Yeah, for the most part, they probably don't really care. I mean, I think President Biden really, has two reasons for doing this. One is political, one is personal. He still seems to think that the Irish-American voting bloc is really critical to political fortunes, and I'm not sure that's the case. It might have been a generation or two ago. We've got 30 or 40 million Irish Americans. I'm one of them. My ancestors came over around the same time as Biden's Irish ancestors. It's a big deal, but it's not that big of a deal. So I think he's probably making a mistake. For the most part, the United States is very pro-UK, very pro-British. We understand the history that our great documents are in many cases derived from the great British documents, the Bill of Rights in 1689, the Magna Carta. There's a real sense of special relationship that President Biden just doesn't get. And I think that's a mistake. So he's got these personal grievances. He's still stuck in this, Irish grievance culture, which has disappeared for the most part. Even the Kennedys, and you saw Joe Kennedy in the clip earlier, greeting President Biden. Because he's now the special envoy to Northern Ireland. The Kennedys got over that whole grievance thing. So I'm not sure that he's I think he's making a political mistake here, letting his personal bias and personal grievances step ahead of the great special relationship between the U.S. and the U.K.
Is he making a great political mistake too for the Democrats, Greg, in saying that he is going to run again? He's already 80. He'll be 82 come the next election. Yeah. And he'd be 86 by the end of his four-year term.
Yes, and as you pointed out, Andrew, he's not a young 80. I mean, this is a man with obvious cognitive challenges, and he's, the constant gaffes and tripping on the stairs of Air Force One. I mean, the list is long. These are embarrassments. But the problem is that Democrats don't have a clear heir apparent. 4 years ago when he was running, the heir apparent was Kamala Harris, but she's polling even worse than Biden. So the administration's been a disaster by most metrics, by most measures. And so if the fact that Kamala Harris is polling even worse than Biden means there's really no obvious heir. And that's why no one else has stepped up. I know that Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, is kicking it around. But I think that, until there's a clear, younger generation that can take over, I don't see why he's in any rush to announce formally. I know he teased, the media over the weekend, but there's just, this is a party with no young leadership on the bench.
And it's interesting, too, because we're going to see Bill Clinton this morning, Greg, and whatever you think of him, he was a class act, real charisma, and he's going to completely upstage the president. Mm.
Absolutely. Just like Barack Obama did in the White House a few months ago. This is clearly, a failed administration, but without the charm of Bill Clinton and Barack Obama. Both of those men were gifted politicians and also gifted orators, neither of which is President Biden. So, it's probably going to be an unpleasant look for Biden. You're right. Bill Clinton was a rock star on his visits to Ireland and Northern Ireland, as was Barack Obama, John Kennedy. So there's some history there, and I'm not sure that President Biden can fit. And again, as you pointed out, Andrew, he's only spending 15 hours in Northern Ireland. It's a clear snub to the United Kingdom, on top of the fact that he's not attending the coronation, and then spending 2.5 days in Ireland. It's really not a good look for the U.S. Special relationship with the U.K.
Thank you, Greg, for joining us this morning. That's Greg Swenson, chair of Republicans Overseas. Thank you.
Now the doctors